Hello, and welcome to our channel, EarHorn. Today, we're going to listen to a story called That Woman Who Crawled on the Floor Is Not My Mother.
I'm an adult now, and these events have long since passed. I have a promising career, a wife, even a child of my own. I'm not one for superstition or delusion. So why can't I sleep with the lights off? Why can't I keep my eyes off my bedroom door at night? I'm writing this to vent, I guess, and to maybe get over my hang-ups. Saying that, I know this story will seem unbelievable to most. I know how it sounds, how I sound. It began in the late 80s. I was 3 or 4 at the time, so it's hard to nail down a precise year. I just remember bits and pieces that mesh together to form semi-coherent scenes, like a blurred silent film from the early 20th century. Old and dilapidated wooden floors that creak and shudder with each step, walls covered in chipping eggshell white paint, revealing discolored and black material underneath. Narrow stairs that turn into narrow corridors of symmetrical doors that lead into rooms filled with nothing. An old, dated TV hooked up in a living room with no furnishings. My father explained later that he was a carpenter at the time, moving into rundown houses to fix them up and resell them later for a small profit. I told him the details I remembered of this house, but he claims to not know specifically which house I'm referring to, that he had moved me into many houses as a baby, and that they all looked the same, more or less. I didn't pressure him further. We don't talk much. I did, however, find out that the general area was in the Detroit suburbs. At least, if the timeline he gave me was correct. He would travel along the entire Rust Belt flipping homes. When you're a toddler, you only remember things that are colorful and bright, things that draw out a really deep emotion inside of you. Most of my memories of this house were pleasant. Sitting in front of the old TV my dad had hooked up and giggling as I played with antennas and dials. I guess I thought it was my friend, or a toy. Rolling my cars down the stairs as I pretended they were racing along mountains, putting my cape on my Winnie the Pooh bear and running around the hallways. Each individually is just a small part of a seemingly happy childhood, but together, in that house, they became nightmares. My father traveled light. He set me up with a single mattress in the upstairs bedroom across the hall from his room with similar accommodations. I was always instructed to go right to sleep and to never leave my room. I asked him why he told me this, but he rebuffed me, annoyed. I think maybe he just wanted to keep me from stepping on a loose nail in the night or something. I'll admit, I was a hyperactive kid. It was hard for me to sleep even then, though for very different reasons. I wanted someone to tell me a story to put me to sleep. My father was overworked and tired, not particularly affectionate either. I would stare at the ceiling, fiddle with my teddy bear as I tossed and turned. Then the noises began. It was like a low groan, followed by a crack, over and over again. It was coming from the ceiling. I leaned up in my mattress. It moved to the wall. I clenched Winnie. It moved to the door. Then silence. I thought I saw the faintest shadow move back and forth under the door. I whispered, not wanting him to know I was still up. The doorknob turned, but not all at once. Not like you and I would open the door. It was like it was slowed down in time. The door creaked open. A shadowy figure stared at me in the doorway. It wasn't my father. It was a woman in a white dress with a black veil. I couldn't see her face, I just remember her thin hands grasping the doorway as she entered. As the moonlight from the window behind me hit her, it was like she was a completely different person. She was beautiful. Her eyes were blue, almost like ice. Her veil was gone and her hair was strawberry blonde. She wore a flower-covered dress and she smelled like fresh spring air. It was my mother, I was sure of it. She smiled at me, which made me smile in return. I was going to speak up, but she put a finger over her lips. Her fingers were still long and gaunt, but they were noticeably less gray. She was telling me to be quiet. I giggled, and I did the same with my finger. She got down low to the ground, on all fours. I didn't think much of it then, but her back twisted and turned like a cat as she got low. Her hands slapped against the ground and pulled her forward. Her bare feet stomped the floor and pushed her towards my bed as she stared down, her long hair concealing her face as she slid across the paneling. She pulled herself to my bed. She was close, only a few inches away from my face as she climbed on my mattress. She was still beautiful, but she had slight dark circles under her eyes, like she hadn't slept in weeks. Her blonde hair was slicked back, as if she just got out of a shower, and it seemed to thin a bit at her forehead. I was excited. "Hello, baby. Aren't you supposed to be asleep?" She spoke softly, calmly. I remember feeling so content, so tired, just from her words. I reached out, grabbing her by the waist and laying my head on her shoulder. She felt warm. She felt thin, hot and narrow and brittle. She smirked again. Her fingers ran through my hair, though they were freezing cold. Freezing, even like she had just stuck them in a bowl of ice. I closed my eyes. I felt her kiss on my forehead. It was dry, dehydrated. Her lips looked so full before. I fell asleep and woke up well rested. It was a good memory for me. My mom died last month. I tried to create a memory bank of all the happiest times with her. Trying to start a conversation with my dad, I told him about the night my mom put me to bed in that old fixer-upper. He looked at me like I was insane. My mother never went with us to the houses, any of them. She was separated from my father at the time. My heart sunk. I asked my aunts and uncles, and they confirmed that it was just me and my dad for those years. Ever since Mom died, I fear the darkness. I can't look at my door. My wife is concerned and sleeps in another room. There are many stories from that old house that keep coming back to me. Of that lady, whatever it was. It soon revealed that it's no friend of mine. I think I feel like it's close. Like a horror awaits me outside the corner of my eye. The worst part is my sons have been having nightmares lately about a crawling woman. I'm hearing the groaning now, just waiting for the crack. Who is the woman? A succubus of the night? A demon? A ghost? Let us know what you think in the comments. And hit the subscribe button for more stories.